I am obsessed with assessments. Here's what I mean. Have you ever wondered how your strengths and your challenges, or the things that are really hard for you to overcome in business, actually contribute to the overall success of your company? Have you ever wondered how the people that you bring into your company contribute to supporting you and making your company successful? Well, there's all types of assessments out there. And one of the assessments that we use when we're hiring is called the Enneagram. And today I have an Enneagram expert, Hillarie Kay, on the show to talk about how to use the Enneagram, not only to maybe prevent burnout and to support you, but also how to think of the Enneagram when it comes to building a team around your business. Hillarie Kay is a results-driven trainer, entrepreneur, and speaker who is focused on the Enneagram to help support business owners in building teams that thrive and grow, and to help the business owner prevent burnout. So let's dive in to today's episode. But before we do, if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, that you hit that little notification bell if you enjoyed this episode, and share a little bit more about what you liked about it in the comments below. Let's dive in to this episode with Hillarie Kay. I am so excited to have a different kind of guest on the show today. We're going to be talking about the Enneagram. So today I have Enneagram specialist Hillarie Kay on the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, so we met recently at an event, and actually your husband, Ben, is helping us clean up some tech issues behind the scenes in our business. We got to talking. Ben and I were staring at each other like, how do we know each other? We didn't know why, because we'd only met over Zoom once, and it was maybe a month before. And then you started chiming in, talking about the Enneagram, and I was just fascinated by your depth of knowledge with the Enneagram in general and how to use it just in your life and business. So tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the Enneagram.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's generally how most people meet me, is they find me in some conversation deep in the Enneagram world. And so no, I love that. So I found the Enneagram when I was experiencing an extreme case of burnout. And it was introduced to me actually in my workplace. I was the director of marketing at a company, and it was one of the assessments that they had
Mm-hmm.
us take. And I was like, this is bull crap. This
Yeah, really?
this is not going to work. I took an assessment, I mistyped, and I was like, I threw it away. Well, 3 months later, I was so far in my burnout, I was willing to take anything
Mhm.
that would help. And I had someone tell me, just relook at this, relook at it, spend some time. So I did, and dedicated some time to it, and ended up retyping, and I ended up finding out my true type. And that experience was life changing for me. I was bawling, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, someone finally understands me. And so I began to just use it personally to help me grow and to help
Yeah.
me not repeat patterns. Just used it personally. And it also led me to realize that I was meant to be an entrepreneur, third
Mhm.
generation entrepreneur. And that is something that's very common for my type. And I was like, why am I trying to do this corporate America thing?
Yeah.
I was born to be an entrepreneur. So went out, started my own company and marketing agency, and fell back into my same habits. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I thought that I was going to get out of this, ended up in burnout. But what I realized is that I was in burnout because I was trying to create these marketing strategies for my clients based on my personality. So I was
Mhm.
trying to duplicate myself 15 to 20 times. And the second I would pull out, the marketing strategies would fail. And I just couldn't
Yeah.
understand why. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had this aha, oh my gosh, Hillary, you're making these strategies for you. You're not making it for your clients' personalities.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to really dive deep into the Enneagram and starting to learn about all 9 types, not
Yeah.
just about my type. And it just unlocked this whole world for me. My marketing agency grew just so much faster than it had before, because my clients were feeling like, oh my gosh, this is really custom made, not only for my business, but for
Mm.
me. And so I after a year or so of doing that, I realized that I really love the business coaching
Yeah.
aspect of the business more, and helping entrepreneurs and business owners create business strategies for themselves, all while avoiding burnout. And so
Yeah.
that just kind of evolved. And in 2020, I made the complete cutoff, closed my marketing agency, and have been a Enneagram practitioner since then, and am a business coach that uses the Enneagram, but predominantly focused on burnout. And so that's kind of like the story that got me there. But so much has evolved since then. But that's like the, I don't know, 2-minute story of how I
Oh, I
got
love
there.
it. That's so cool. So tell everyone what your type is.
Yep. So I am an Enneagram type 3, and that is often known as the achiever or performer. I don't really love the names of all the types. I
Yeah.
think it gets so reductionistic, but there is some, it's like tangible for people to start
Mhm.
out with. But yes, I'm a type 3.
So do you think that people have like, I mean, here's the thing with typecasting and assessments. My belief is that, they give you information, but they aren't a full picture of the story. Like you might be a 3, but then there's also a strong draw to other types, and you have characteristics of the other types. So what's your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yep, 100%. I do not believe that we are a type. The Enneagram is not a type, it's a system. And I firmly believe we have all 9 types within us. The diagram itself, like if you look at other personality assessment tools like Myers-Briggs or DISC
Mhm.
or Insights, you are literally in a box. They put the title of your name and they put the characteristics.
Yeah.
There's no movement. You're there. But what I love
Mhm.
about the Enneagram is it is a diagram. It is like there is lines that move around. It's
Yeah.
circular. You literally move. And we have all 9 types within us. We are
Mhm.
all connected. They just show up at different percentages. And so that's why this is a growth tool and not
Yeah.
a personality typing, like a typing test. It's a growth tool.
Interesting.
Yep, we have all 9 types within us, just some show up at different percentages, and we are more connected to some than others. That helps us understand our growth cycle and burnout cycle and just how we're wired.
So why do you like why the Enneagram? I know that you talked about some of these other tools and stuff like that, but why have you been so drawn to the Enneagram? Because I'm sure that when you were working for this other company, they had you take many assessments. Like what was the thing that really drew you to that?
Yeah, I think it's because it's the why behind the what. So the
Mm,
other assessments told me the what. Yes, I like to climb a ladder. Yes, I
yeah.
love to be on stage. Yes, I'm comfortable talking in front of a million people. Great, wonderful. I know this about myself. You're not telling me
Uh-huh.
anything I don't know about myself. You're having me take this because you need to know
Yeah.
about me. Versus the Enneagram, it was more internally confronting. It
Mm,
helped me bring a better understanding to the why, and not
yeah.
like your, we hear it as entrepreneurs all the time. What's your why? Not
Yeah.
that type of why.
Yeah.
It's the,
Yeah. We talk about
right,
it.
exactly. What motivates me? What I'm scared of, what my coping mechanisms are,
Yeah.
how to get out of using my coping mechanisms, how
Right.
to live fully integrated. So it's a lot more of the day-to-day movements within me
Yeah.
versus just what everyone sees, because you can be perceived however you want people to perceive you.
Right.
Can't change what's in here, right? Like
Yep.
that's your core operating system. So it allowed me to understand how I operated and why. So when I did end up in certain places or did different things, I understood that. So I could be like, ooh, that's an alarm bell. Stop. I'm going to
Mhm.
pivot and go this way. Or, yes, this is my alarm bell that I'm going in the right direction. So I'm going to go full steam ahead over here.
Okay, awesome. I love that. I'm going to ask you some more questions about how to use it in business. But first, can you give us an overview of the types, like the pros, the cons, or whatever framework you kind of talk through
Yeah.
these types? Maybe pros and cons is the wrong way to say it.
No, I think so. What I would love to do, I can say the name. I've already said, like, I don't like the reductionistic
Yeah.
thing that a name gives, but it sometimes does help people go, oh, I might be one of these three,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll give like the name,
Perfect.
the strengths of that type, and then some of the common obstacles that
Perfect.
that type might face. So we'll start with the type 1, and they're often known as the improver. So the
Or
strengths are that they're
perfectionist.
well, so I don't use perfectionist because a lot of type 1s have reported that they don't feel like they're
Yeah,
perfectionists. And so that word doesn't often resonate with type 1s.
I
It
hear
resonates
you. Yeah.
in the type 1's lives.
So
But yeah, you're
improver.
absolutely right. Yes,
Okay.
the improver or the reformer. So strengths is that they're very principled,
Mm,
responsible, self-disciplined, conscientious. Some of the obstacles that the type 1 runs into is perfectionism,
yeah.
right? That's an obstacle that they don't realize sometimes that they have. A tendency to be critical of themselves and others,
Mm.
and just really this strong, deep inner critic. The type 2, and do you want me to just go straight
Yeah,
through
go
these,
through.
or do
Like
you?
I think 1 through 9 is great. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the type 2 is often called the connector. So some of the strengths of the type 2 are caring, nurturing,
Mhm.
supportive, and empathetic. Some of the
My co-founder is a
obstacles.
type 2. She's a helper.
Okay. Yeah, and type 2s, like, you can feel a type 2 energy. You just like
Yeah.
want to hug them.
Or
You
I
know?
should say my former co-founder. We're great friends. Her name's Robin Kramer, but we called her the mother hen. She didn't like it when I called it that, but she's like the one who just like kept everything together. And also, I would just say like, if you have customer service, have a type 2 in your customer service desk because they want to help everyone.
Yes, I totally have job roles for each type. Like, what are the
I want to hear
best
that.
job
Yeah.
roles?
We'll do
Um,
that after. How's that?
so obstacles of the type 2 is sometimes they can have over involvement in other people's lives
Oh
and
yeah.
neglect needs.
Yes.
And they seek that validation through helping versus having that own inner
Mm.
validation.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we go to the type 3. So that's me. I'm often known as the achiever or the performer. Strengths of the type 3 are driven, goal oriented, very adaptable. Obstacles of the type 3 are sometimes putting the project over people, tendency to care too much about what it looks like, can be over competitive, and fear failure.
I totally resonate with that. Sometimes I'm not a type 3, but like I totally resonate with that.
Yeah. And isn't it funny though that you can, like how we talked about, like we are all
Yeah.
9 types at different percentages, right?
Yeah.
So just because some of these things, like you might like, yeah, I resonate with that, but it's the why behind why you resonate with that.
Hmm.
Like, what is that fear that you have that's
Yeah.
causing, that's causing that. So that's a great point. Okay. The type 4 is often called the individualist. The strengths of the type 4 are creative, emotionally deep, and they're very appreciative of like beauty and uniqueness.
Hmm.
The obstacles of the type 4 are they're prone to melancholy because they live in just like this
Yeah.
idealistic world. Like it always could be that it always could be prettier. Like I could have always done this better, right? So prone to melancholy. And they have a sense of being different or misunderstood. Like they never really feel like they fit in.
Yeah. I know a bunch of types 4s. I always thought that many type 4s would be in this community, and we did the Enneagram like as a
Yes.
community a while back, and I was surprised that there were not as many type 4s as I thought there would be.
Yeah, that is actually really shocking to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of creative groups, like with artists or designers, and there's tends to be quite a few
Yeah.
type 4s in those groups.
They're usually
Yeah.
brooding. Sometimes I would say oftentimes introverted more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, there are some type 4s who definitely are more of that, like, I am super introspective and I show that I'm introspective, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna withdraw. But there are other type 4s that are more charismatic, but
Mhm.
then they definitely need their withdrawal time
Yeah.
to like let
Yep.
me review the conversation.
Yep.
All right. The type 5 is often known as the observer. Their strengths are they're very analytical, independent, they love learning and understanding. Obstacles are they tend to withdraw emotionally. They really like their privacy. They also tend to become detached to things and
Yeah.
just appear aloof. And so even if they don't want to appear that way, that's because they're on the outside looking in, hence the name, the observer, right?
Yeah.
All right. The next one is the loyalist. And that is type 6. And strengths of the type 6 are that they're responsible, cautious, they're very good at problem solving and preparing for potential things that could go wrong or preparing for things that they want to go right. Obstacles for the type 6 are they sometimes have a tendency to doubt themselves and to doubt others around them.
Mm.
And they tend to have like, once you have hurt them, like you are dead to them, like hence the loyalists, like they are fiercely protective of themselves and others. And it's hard for them to receive like criticism from people that they love.
Mm.
Next, the type 7. The type 7 is often known as the enthusiast. Strengths of the type 7 are that they're generally very optimistic, fun-loving, open to new experiences and possibilities. Obstacles for the type 7 are avoidance of pain, impulsiveness, and difficulty with commitment. That is the type 7.
Yeah.
And then we have the type 8. The type 8 is known as the challenger. Strengths of the type 8 are that they're very assertive, strong, protective, generally are natural leaders. Obstacles for the type 8 are they have a tendency to be confrontational and can appear very controlling and can struggle with vulnerability. Then lastly, we have the type 9, and the type 9 is often known as the peacemaker or the mediator. Some strengths of this type are that they're easygoing, they're supportive, able to see many perspectives, and are really able to help like calm conflictual situations. Obstacles, though, for this type are they have a tendency to avoid conflict because they don't want to be the cause of it. They can become complacent just because they're scared to voice their needs for fear that it's going to cause conflict. And they just like lose their own sense of voice and desires if they are not careful. So that's like the quick strengths,
I love it.
obstacles of each type. And like, I mean, that is just scratching the surface. I could go infinitely deep on each type, but that gives just like a general overview.
Now, I'm super curious, like when you're like building a team, this might be kind of a curveball question because I didn't really like prepare you for this before, but like when you're building a team, like what types should be in each type of role? Like what's the best type for like a type 1 or a type 7 or 3?
Yes. So a lot of that has to do with the leader of the team and what they need, right? So you look at the owner of the company and you're like, okay, where does this type struggle, right? And then you fill in the blanks with that, right? And to say every type can do every job, right?
Yeah.
We can grow, we can, we are not put in a box. So like the jobs that I'm about to say, like it's just, they tend to be a little easier.
It's so funny. One of my mentors said, you definitely want a type 3 in your marketing department. 100%. Like don't hire anyone who's not a type 3 in your marketing department because they're the performance-based ones. So you want to make sure that you have, I know that we had a discussion about this. I still am resonating with the 7, even though you think something else, because like the 6 does not really sound like me, even though I can see why you would think that in our conversation. I'm more of like a 7 with an 8 because I definitely am a challenger. With that being said, I feel like I really like need the balance of the other side of the spectrum. So I'm always looking for 2s and 3s and 5s because 5 is like my core weakness, like the systematic type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So let's say you're like building a team for a 7, like what would you say for that person? Like,
So for a 7, you look at 7s tend to start projects, but not finish them. They are idea generators. And so they have lots of great ideas, but they need people to implement them and bring structure to their ideas.
Yeah.
So looking at building a team for a 7 would be like your 3, like the type 3 would be more like either marketing or like a chief of staff.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to structure all your ideas and I'm going to give the direction. Right. Like, and I need to be the harder one enforcing the rules because for a 7, it's uncomfortable sometimes to like, okay, I've said it once. And if you don't do it, like I don't have time to have this conversation with you. I don't want to have this
Yeah.
conversation with you because it's uncomfortable. Right. So you need someone that's going to bring structure to your ideas and like roll them out effectively. So having a type 3 either as like a chief of staff position or like an integrator position,
Hmm.
great. Type 3s are also great in marketing. And then also I would have a type 1. Some 7s hate, like they butt heads with type 1s. But what
Well, it's
type
also,
1s
I know that you think something different, but like when I learned the Enneagram, it's like type sevens turn into a type one when
Yes,
they're
no,
out of
I
balance.
think that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 100%. So the 7s at type 1, when they are in stress, show up a lot like the lower side of the type 1.
Yeah.
And so
Totally stressed
because of
out, perfectionistic,
yes,
like,
yes,
yeah.
100%. But that is if you can find, so the 7 and 1 might have a lot of friction, but there is so much flow
Yeah.
in that combination too. And so type 1s for a type 7, like a administrative assistant, like a right hand
Mm.
person, a type 1 would be great for
Okay.
a type.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Also for the 7, having a 5 on staff is great for developing your repeatable processes.
Yeah.
So 7s are great at thinking of processes. Like this is my ideal process. This is what
Yeah.
I want to have happen.
We are not good at
And then
documenting them.
they are horrible at documenting them. There are some 7s that are good at it. That's like my husband's a 7,
Yeah.
right? And he does a bunch of documentation for tech, but he's a what we call a counter type 7. So
What
it
does that
doesn't.
mean?
His core fear shows up differently. So his
Oh,
coping mechanisms show up a little differently.
okay. Got it.
And there, like I said, Enneagram's infinitely deep.
Yeah. So many
But
directions you can go.
yeah, exactly. But a 5 is good for the 7 for the repeatable systems and
Yeah.
documentation of those systems because 5s are like super process oriented. And so those would be like the 3 types that would work well. Again, all types can work with anybody. You are going to
Yeah.
have friction with all types, but you can also have flow with all types. It's about having those open conversations.
Okay, amazing. So what do you think the best way to use the Enneagram to really thrive and grow in your life and your business? I know like earlier in our interview you were talking about burnout, and burnout is a huge thing. In fact, we just had a retreat for our momentum program and we did a mastermind day with my VIPs, and the core, like a lot of them were struggling with burnout or changes in their business or things that were coming up. So, like, how do you use the Enneagram in relation to burnout to either overcome it or I don't know. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So the Enneagram, like I said, it's a system. And
Yeah.
within the system, there are tools. So we've talked a little bit about the first tool in the Enneagram toolbox, which is your connection points. So these are the types on either side of you in the diagram. And then they're also your resource points. It's the lines that go into you
Yeah.
and out of you in the diagram. And so these connection points serve as your helpers and your resources. So you learn how these connection points show up for you. So when you are in a burnout cycle, you are going to begin to start to exhibit the lower side characteristics of not only your type, but your resource points type. So for a 7, you would start to experience the lower characteristics of the type 1 and the type 5
Yeah.
when you're in a burnout cycle.
And also the type 7 too, or no?
Yes. So like if you are a 7, you'll experience the low side of your type and the low side of your resource points.
Okay.
If you're in a burnout cycle, and it
Yeah.
happens gradually.
That sounds very familiar.
Yes.
I was laughing at the non-committal thing because it's like I am not a commitment phobe. Like I'm definitely like kind of loyal. But like if I'm stressed out, I can't have a hard time making decisions.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So on the
Which you
flip side of
experienced when I met you, because I like couldn't decide. I'm like, I don't know what you want to do. Like I just can't figure, like I don't want to make the wrong decision, but it's not necessarily about doing it wrong. It's like I just have decision fatigue and I just don't want to make a decision.
Yep.
kind of thing.
Let's put a pin in decision fatigue because that's going to come out in the second tool.
Yeah.
So, but I want to finish up. So with the connection points, you can also know when you're in a growth cycle because
Yeah.
you're going to exhibit the higher side characteristics
Oh,
of
interesting.
your type and your resource points. So that's what I do is like I work with people to help them develop their unique cycles. So we
Yeah.
can start to observe these patterns, right? And it's that why behind the what.
Yep.
Why are you doing this? Not
Yeah.
just what are you doing? So that's the first tool. Second tool, that's where decision fatigue comes in. So the Enneagram is comprised of 3 intelligence centers: head, heart, and body. And every type leads with one. Types 5, 6, and 7 lead with the head. Types 2, 3, and 4 lead with the heart. And types 8, 9, and 1 lead with the body. Now, notice I say lead. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't use all 3. And that's actually the goal. Your intelligence centers, if you are operating solely out of your primary intelligence center, you're going to have decision fatigue. If you are operating solely out of what we call your repressed intelligence center, for the 7, they are heart repressed.
What does that
Meaning
mean?
they have a hard time trusting their heart. They sometimes pretend like emotions don't exist, and they would rather just like pretend it's not connected to their body.
I don't feel that way, but yeah, that's interesting. So, I can see where you would say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that's for 7s who are in burnout, or 7s who are not aware, right? But there is some, like, if you start to have to use your heart, like maybe there was a horrible experience that happened and you're grieving.
Yeah.
Right. And you're having to only use this to process, that's going to get you in burnout too. Yeah. So the goal is to integrate the 3 centers. How can you integrate head, heart, body? And so you can have decision fatigue by either overusing or underusing your primary intelligence center. And so you can learn about that and learn how to best integrate the centers for your type.
I learned so much more about the Enneagram today than I ever knew before. I just knew like the high level, all the things. So if people are interested in learning more about their Enneagram type and they want to take a test, where do they go?
Yeah. So tests, I will say they're 55% accurate. Take them, great, but don't just take it for what it is. Like, don't just say this is my type because this is what I scored, because they're computer programs. Yeah. I have 2, the best free one that I refer people to is at theartofgrowth.org. They have a great free assessment. It's on the very high end of being accurate. There's also one from the Enneagram Institute called the RHETI. It's RHETI. That one is pretty accurate as well. But if you ever have the opportunity to get live typed, that's the best option. So Enneagram practitioners, we all live type.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So where can people find you if they want to get live typed or chat with you a little bit about their Enneagram type and burnout?
I am Hillarie Kay everywhere. So it's HILLARIE and then KAY. And that is where I am everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram, website, all Hillarie Kay.
Awesome. Hillarie, thank you so much for being here today. This was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yay. Wasn't that awesome? If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you go ahead and follow Hillarie on all of her social media channels and reach out to her for more information. And if you don't know your Enneagram type yet, make sure that you take the Enneagram test and report back to me and let me know how it goes. And if you're someone who wants to connect and mastermind with like-minded jewelry business owners and other people in the product space, and you've been looking and craving the support and community that a group coaching program or a mastermind can support you in, then I would love to officially invite you to apply to our Momentum program. Momentum is our 12-month coaching program where we support you through one-on-one personalized attention, individualized coaching, strategic planning, support, expert training, and accountability. And we would love to bring you into that group. Every year we host a couple of retreats, and those retreats are incredible at helping you really get to your next level in business. We just hosted one here in Scottsdale and it was amazing. So if you'd like to learn more about that program and you're someone who is ready to really scale your business to multiple 6 or multiple 7 figures, here's your official invite. Head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/momentum and fill out your application today.